everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I'm your senior host, and my co-host Pete Turner is over there to the other side of me. Hi, Pete. Good morning, brother. And I'd like to make a quick shout out to Pete. As many of you know, I was very, very ill these last few weeks, and Pete was kind enough to pick up the show and took care of the last 2 weeks for me while I was recovering from the flu. And this is what preempted our conversation that we're going to share with you today. What happens at our age in life? I'm in my 70s, and my friends are in their 70s, and now some in their 80s. And people are passing away, and they're passing away with frequency, which is natural. It's a cycle of life and death and moving on. But Pete is about a half a generation younger than I am, so it's going to be an interesting conversation to see how that generation, meaning most of you, your generation, reflect on the loneliness syndrome that becomes a part of our life as we get into later years. Bear in mind, you by the time you hit the age that I'm at, you have family members that are passing away with frequency. You have friendships that are dying and leaving time that at one time recently in your lives, in our lives, was filled by the friendships and the family members that would be interacting with us on a daily basis. 2 weeks ago, when I was very critically ill with this flu strain, one of my tenants and a friend of mine for more than 20 years would come up and check on me daily. Sadly, he contracted the flu, and last Saturday he died from it. And I had no idea just exactly how much of an influence that this man had on my life until his passing. Because every day for years, we've always shared breakfast, or he would come up and we would also share dinners. So we filled a lot of time in each other's lives. And I remember the day before his death, I went down to check on him, and I'd asked him, I said, why don't you let me bring you upstairs, make you a bed on the couch so I can monitor you? You look really, really rough. The next morning, he didn't respond for breakfast. I went down and I found him deceased on the bathroom floor. So, Pete, I'm interested to hear your interaction with this, because you yourself are now, what, you're in your 50s, early 60s? I don't know.
That's right. Yeah. I just had a birthday. I just turned 56 last month.
Yeah.
So almost exactly a month ago. A month ago tomorrow, I turned 56. And
Wow.
like you said, people die. Yeah, we were just having this. My special someone and I were having this conversation. We were driving back from our hometown, and her parents, best friends, we went to their house and sat with them for a while. And so my special someone's father has passed away a couple of years back now, not very long ago, but they were neighbors of their best friend. And so the older gentleman would walk over to his best friend's house, my special someone's dad, and they would hang out and watch TV, and they're all in their 80s. And so his best friend has passed away. His wife's best friend, my special someone's mom, and they're all from foreign countries, right? They all immigrated here and live here. She's not passed away yet, but she's in a demented state and can't have a relationship that, like the old days, like that person doesn't exist anymore. It's this new person who is demented and can't live on her own anymore. And so, the house gets a lot bigger. And then they tragically had a daughter that was murdered a year ago on Valentine's Day. And so even that part of their life, which caused some of their kids to go back to Europe, where they're from, because they wanted to get out of the United States because it was just too hard. And their life, their capacity to do things and make changes is different than it is when you're 20. And so, we got to see a whole lot of that. And as we've gone through our pain as part of this process of dealing with demented parents and a passed away dad, you realize it's a whole community that's feeling this. And we talked to a couple other of their friends while we were in town, and it's more the same thing, where their life is a different life now than it was.
Yes.
And it's less about choices and more about reactions to what befalls somebody they love. Because the person we're talking to has survived, but a lot of their friends haven't. So going back a generation back, we I had a friend drop dead last year, just walking across the parking lot, heart attack, widowmaker, dead.
I
John, as
remember.
you know,
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember.
John, as you know, had a friend go to the gym and
Yeah.
essentially died, but they got him back, to where the doctor is shaking his head saying, wow, so yeah, this loneliness and this constant attachment to grief, it's a real thing.
Well, I think too, Pete, that what I recognize with these last few years where I have lost several people in my life, and by the way, my mother died from dementia. I was with her in the last final weeks of her life, got her down to my sister who put her in hospice care outside of Portland, Oregon. And I remember my sister calling and saying, Mom's going, and put the phone to her ear so I could give our mother last rites. I was getting ready to go in the pulpit and preach a sermon on a Sunday when I got the call. But sometimes we lose them as dementia and Alzheimer's shows us or predicates to that statement that they're still there physically, but they're no longer there psychologically or mentally, and we can't have them anymore like we used to. But it doesn't have the finality that death does, because once death occurs to somebody that you love, you're close to, be it friend or family, a gap is created. It's like an open wound. And how do we fulfill the gap? And how do we close the gap? And I think that what we need to do is transcend into more of purpose. Like you and I, we have a show. You have your, the Break It Down show. You help me and co-host the Crisis Victory show. But I'm also an author. I'm also someone who works on the motion picture project of my life story. I have been a pastor for 26 years now and work in hospice and frequently get calls to go to Providence and, do last rites and counsel people that are in the final stages of life. So I've also, as you know, spent years in the Sinaloa drug cartel, and I'm very familiar with violent death and violent end of life. So I've been blessed with this capability of understanding, if you will, to the many forms and facets that regulate how we go on and carry on after experiencing such great losses. Losing Randy, my friend Randy, really impacted me. I had no idea. But, when you look at 20 years of knowing somebody literally every single day, and they're up eating with you and they're up being company with you, and all of a sudden that's removed. And I have another friend who's now 78, and he's in pretty much final stage of life, and I'll be losing him. I've known him for over a half a century. And what it does is it creates a fear, if you will, of others that you love, that you're close to. Do we have an expectation of something happening to them, creating further loss and more of the separation syndrome that tends to self-develop itself within us as we start to almost shut down, if you will, from daily patterns that just 2 or 3 years ago were existent, but we now go into a more of a protective state. And as you know, for over 20 years, I work in the homeless community. I've dealt with a lot of fentanyl deaths, overdoses. I've dealt with tragic death from circumstances of living out in the elements, things to this nature. And, you really miss them. And when death comes upon somebody in a recent moment, oftentimes you'll reflect back to the deaths of others that take you into those memories of what you no longer have. So my question, Pete, to you is this: how do we sustain purpose? How do we sustain the ability, if you will, to go on in quality of life when we start losing the support systems, if you will, of people that are no longer with us?
And I think you have to, this is born from a lot of experience. You and I, Hal, are people that get called when people get sick or die or need help. That's
Yes.
just the kind of dudes that we've made ourselves into. And so I'm a lot more comfortable with death than most people. And I'm aware that it's coming, right? And I don't think of that in a negative way. It's a natural thing. This is happening. I'm 56. I can go on stretches for months. I can lose someone I know every month. It can happen. And so it's always a surprise that, I don't ever want that outcome, but I realize, and it's like dementia. It just is what it is. And it's a different thing that you either deal with or, you're forced to find new kinds of grief that you didn't know were possible. and new ways to look at yourself. So rather than focus on that part of it, I try to focus on today, right now, like you and Randy hanging out, having meals together. And I'm a big believer in let's have so many good times, so many nightcaps, so
Yeah.
many conversations that when you're like, you remember that time when we had that great time? And I'm like, I don't know, which great time are you talking about? We've had so many great times that my life is packed with richness while we have each other, while we have time and get together. And so what I tend to do is say, hey, I'm coming into town, let's grab a meal, and I'll put together a meal, and it can be 10 people that show up for this thing. I
Yeah.
don't care if they I don't care if they're like, I thought we were just gonna sit together. Like, yeah, we are sitting together, this whole group of people, and we're all gonna be together. And sometimes that aggravates people, but I compel them to do that, and then they'll say things like, man, to the other person sitting next to them, you know what? Why don't we get together? Not just when Pete's in town, right? And so I'm hoping that that inspires other people to have those, Randy and Hal moments where they have meals more often. Why not go have a bite together? Why not make someone breakfast and invite them over and get in front of this and just pack some more joy and some fellowship into your life? Because there is a natural thing that concludes these relationships. And
Yes.
so, yeah, that's what I try to do is invest today. This is what I've learned. Invest in today, but also be comfortable with the fact that you don't know. There's quite often the last time you see somebody, it wasn't like, hey, I'll never see you again. You don't
Yeah,
say that.
exactly.
It's just,
Yeah.
things happen and then all of a sudden one of them dies. And you're like, oh my gosh, the last time we were together was when we were at McDonald's, whatever. It was a chance meeting. We were going to get together. Well, don't just say we were going to get together. Get together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a great response to my question. Another thing too, Pete, as you know, I've been a hospice counselor and became a
Right.
certified hospice chaplain in 2018. I've been doing it for 26 or 27 years now, I think, this year. Anyway, I have taken more than 60 people through the dying process as a hospice counselor. And in the last few years, I've literally lost count. I don't even keep track of the numbers anymore. But it's just amazing that I still keep track of their faces, the joy of sharing their memories of life in their final moments before they go on to be that which we were before we were even manifested in the flesh. Life does continue. As you know, I was hit by a contract killer in June of 2020, left for dead. In my final moments before I lost consciousness, I felt my life slipping away, but I also felt something even greater come into my life that made me no longer care that I was dying. It didn't, none of that matter. Like the Bible
Yeah.
says in Revelations, how the former things pass away. And I think we need to take that type of thinking into what our conversation is about today, which you just scratched on. We have to evolve with change in life, and we have to learn another avenue and another path. I'm in my 70s, so I speak from experience of more recent loss than even a decade ago when people that I knew and loved and started falling away. But the thing that I see that the biggest problem is with people that are in the category that I'm discussing today on my personal basis is how do you replace loss? And I loved your answer, the memories. You have to go to the memories of the good times you had with those people and to not look ahead, but accept every single day that you've got and manifest that day into something of worth, something that has
Right.
content, something that has purpose. And I remember talking to Randy about that not even a month ago. And he was very depressed with his life. He didn't want to continue on in life. And we would have these conversations, and I would explain to him, Randy, you need to wake up and have purpose. You need to have a reason to want to go on and something that is satisfying and fulfilling. And we would talk about his skills, his experiences in life when he was younger. And I was telling him that take that knowledge and that wisdom and that reflection and manifest it and turn it into something that every day gives you joy and excitement to wake up that next morning and have a plan. Like what you and I did when we created this program. It's amazing how much it helps to get on the air and share life's experiences with other people. And I thank you
Yeah.
for it. I thank you very
Well,
much.
and I thank you. It's been a blessing for me, not just a little bit financially, which for me is a lot, but just the new world you open up because I don't know everything. I don't know everyone. And I can learn so much from every individual guest. You've met
Yeah.
my friend Herb. You were he was on your show, and just hearing how he interacts all these lives, and there's all these agents for change. I'm thinking about a friend of mine, and it's funny because as I don't identify this person, a lot of my friends would be like, "You're talking about me?" Well, then yes, then I am. If you think I'm talking about you, then I am. But this
I
person
like
is
that.
lonely. They're lonely, right? And they're in their late 50s, and this person is just like, having to do. And look, it's maybe you're great professionally, maybe you're great financially, maybe you're great this, but some part of your life may be messed up, and so you've restarted over and over again. It's always uncomfortable to restart, but if you're lonely, like we're talking about today,
Yes.
then go out. Easier said than done. Easier to be, give up to depression. I get depressed, and I try to find my way how to dig out of it.
Yes.
But the activity for me in interaction with humans, for me, is a chance for me to be of service. It's a chance for me to want to be alive, even though I have, you and I have talked, and everybody calm down. I'm fine, but I have suicidal ideation every day. I want to
Yeah.
die every day. And I'm able to overcome. This is a product of our environments where you see death, you get really comfortable with your own demise. And
Yes.
so, and we've been in all of the danger possible. Hal, I was in a head-on collision with a tank, everybody, right? Hal was assassinated and survived. So when we think about the end, we're comfortable, a lot more comfortable with it than the average person.
Absolutely, we are.
When my friend is talking about being lonely and not sure if they'll find someone, and this person is very socially connected, I would want that person to attune their actions to be a little more open to different opportunities, or just to explore more, or have the confidence that you will meet someone. There's someone out there. There's always someone out there, but
Yes.
you have to be, you have to just go out and do the work of getting to know people. And even if you don't find that someone for 3, 4, 5, that's fine. That's how the process goes. But as you reinvigorate all these relationships or discover new ones, you are enriching not only your life, but someone else's. And this, again, is where I get a lot of my benefit. Is like, oh my gosh, I'm enriching other people's lives, and I'm focused on me and how fat I might look or how old I look. And nobody ever says, Pete, you look fat and old, right? No one ever says that. So I bring my own crap to the party, and I'm like, I need to not worry about that. How? And I know you know this, Hal.
Yes.
You can look back at a picture from 10 years ago when you thought you were fat and old or whatever. Like, oh God, I'm not young and handsome anymore. And then you look back and you're like, what the hell was I worried about? I look fine. I look fantastic there. I'm having a great time. And so I'm trying to remind myself in this time that I'm in, it's not as bad as I think. I don't look as bad and as fat and as old as I think. I am having a good time. And I try to reflect that through my own soul. And I hope that other people will experience a similar thing for themselves, so that yes, lonely can be an era of your life. I get that.
Yes.
Depression can for sure, amplify that. But you can go out and meet and talk to wonderful people. And the more computers and robots get involved, the more I don't want anything to do with that in my relationships. I just want to go see people. And so I'll drive 4 hours to go see a friend if they're in town.
I know you do. I know you do
all the time.
Yeah. This is such an important topic to me today, Pete, because I do know other people as a hospice counselor that have come to me and have talked to me about this very topic. I'm getting ready to lose my wife, or I'm getting ready to lose my husband. What am I going to do now? And that's reflective over many years of hearing these conversations come into play. And I got to tell you, Pete, that this topic that we're sharing today is truly on the minds and hearts of so many people out there. They don't know how to adjust to loss. They don't have a plan or an idea in play to be able to step in that moment of separation, and where loneliness becomes an occurrence that they've never really dealt with before, not to the extremity of someone close to you. And losing my dear friend Randy a couple of weeks ago really put that into play with me. I had no idea the impact that this person had in my day-to-day life until it was gone. And it's not like being a hospice counselor, sitting in a hospital room next to a bed, holding someone's hand, praying with them, trying to comfort them in their moments of anxiety and fear of what's coming next, these kind of things that I've dealt with more times than I can count. And this is different because this is permanent. It's already gone. And I remember 2 weeks ago when I went down there to check on him and I found him dead on the bathroom floor, there was an instant numbness, if you will, not denial, but a numbness, as I 911'd in and notified the police that I had a decedent in my building. And there was just a lot of conflict in my thoughts in that moment of recognizing not only the death of a dear friend, but the transformation of life that I was going to ensue starting right then.
Yeah.
And like you know, I'm
Yeah.
real familiar with death. I'm not afraid of death. Absolutely not. I've seen violent death like you have. We've both been in environments where those things were just an occurrence of the environment we found ourselves existing in at that time in our life. But also having the over 20 years of working with people going through slow death process, it's really been enlightening to me to observe, learn, and pass on, if you will, the knowledge to other people that are sitting in that room watching a loved one in final stages of life and being almost in panic. And what do I do? And how do I deal with this? And what's going to happen? And your comment where you made a few minutes ago, where you were saying, today is a new day. Take it day at a time. That is so significant because it's good to plan for the future, but it's never good to dwell on it. And this is what I wanted. That's what I wanted to kind of bump on today, which is why we're having this most important conversation. People sometimes are afraid to go into unfamiliar territory in life. So when they lose something of familiarity, they are now catapulted, if you will, into an environment of insecurity, unsureness, and, oh my God, what do I do now? I never realized how much this person in my life took care of these things that I am now responsible for in my own existence. And it just is what it is, Pete, you know, and we have to be able to bend and adjust to transformation. And I'm not saying dwell on it every day, but I do say it's good to kind of have a plan in play if you're expectant of change. What do you think?
Well, yeah, and this goes to like another thing, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but basically it applies to all adults. You know, so either you or the people you love need to have a will and trust, need to understand the medical directives that you want to have done.
NDAs.
Yeah, and all of that, all of the document. If you don't, find a friend like Hal, like Pete, who can get you towards a resource, who can say, here's how simple a will is, and here's what happens if you don't do it. If you ignore the fact that you are mortal, or if you allow your loved one to ignore the fact, you know, there's good counsel in figuring these things out, and if it's inevitable, right? Like Prince died with no trust, no like estate set up. Right.
Yeah, good example.
So this happens all of the time, and it puts the people that you love in the uncomfortable position of not only grieving your demise, but also, hey, guess what? They have to manage the stuff that you wouldn't manage. And this is all manageable stuff. We have, again, someone in our life that has dementia, and that person doesn't, if they were able to speak for themselves, which they can't anymore, they wouldn't want to have a bunch of extra care at any kind of great expense, because they want other things out of their life. And so if she gets sick, that's probably going to be it. And you have to fight for that. You know, you're fighting, this sound crazy, but you're fighting for that person's ultimate demise, because that's what they wish to have happen. They don't want to be extended. They're miserable in this state, and you have to allow nature, in this case, to take
that.
That's not for that's not for everybody, but for this person, that is that, and that's a normal thing. It's the outcome that they want. And so the hospital, when they go, you know, is going to be desperate to try to put an IV in. You have to say, no, we're not doing that. And then they have to switch into the hospice zone. They've got to call Hal. They got to go grab the comfort medicine and allow them to feel comfortable. And that is tough, but that is your burden. You love this person. You know their wishes. I certainly don't want to be kept alive in a reduced state like that.
Yes,
so you have to love them enough to take the pain of their demise, and that it's imminent, and that you're going to be the person that says no. That, and this is just, and I'll shut up after this, but in the speech therapy world, there are speech therapists that look at the person who is aged and has lost the ability to process food themselves, and they say, you can no longer safely feed that person because they can't process food with their teeth in their mouth. And so that usually is a death sentence. Yeah, sometimes you have to go to a feeding tube, but I know I wouldn't want to get the house in right now publicly. I don't want a feeding tube. If I reach that point in my life,
Gotcha, brother.
You have to let me go, right? And so that takes courage to have the person who raised you or you raised yourself and say, this is not what they want. I'm going to honor this very uncomfortable decision, but they made this thing and we had these talks. And so you have to communicate with the people that you love and
Well, you know, and
how
also,
you want to handle these things. Yes.
yeah, sorry. Yeah. Anyway,
No, you're fine.
I've been in countless times with people that are hooked up on machines and they're being kept alive by machines, and in their NDRs, do not resuscitate, or DNRs. They are very specific about that type of transitioning to not be an occurrence in their life. They don't want that. They want the death. And I've sat there and watched people literally scream and beg with doctors and nurses to keep them going no matter what. And their hands are tied. The nurses and doctors explain to them, this is a do not resuscitate order. And we have to pull the plug on this individual at this time. And that's the way it is. And I've sat in the rooms and several times with people that have done that and watched those that are still living and still going on with life literally crumble and don't know how to accept the acceptance of death and its process, its natural process itself. You know, I've done memorial services where I've stood up in front of crowds of people and having open discussion about somebody that I would be requested to do the memorial service for that I knew for years, or in some cases short term. But you know what? I always manifest it. I always talk to the people that are coming to these and get an idea of memories that people shared with these people. And this is something that helps the healing process of the loneliness, if you will, that's starting to come into play by now realizing this person is gone and you're going to miss the segment of your life.
Yeah.
And but I always would draw the audiences in before I would even get up on the stand and start talking about the memorial service protocols. And it would always bring people closer into the conversation because all of a sudden you're making a comment about them that shared a wonderful memory and a moment of that person's life. And this is something that begins a healing process for other people that are there that may not have known about those circumstances. And it brings a joy. It brings a joy. And yeah, I really love doing memorial services. Yeah. Obviously, you can tell because it's an opportunity.
Can I say something? Because there's another angle to all of this. So you have the family. First off, here's a rule for everybody. People suck at people dying. And so don't expect our best behavior, like your brother, your cousin, whoever it is. And there's also no rush. Once somebody dies, they're still dead. They're going to be dead next week. They're going to be dead the next year. So you don't have to race to do anything. The biggest thing you can do is just be patient, grieve, love your friends and neighbors, go out to meals, talk. You don't have to, like a death certificate, it's just not going to come any faster. Nobody at the coroner's office needs to be rushed. You know, like these things go at their own speed. So that's the first thing. The other thing is Hal talked about when, hey, we're going to unplug this person because they have a DNR or whatever kind of medical paperwork. Yeah. It also can be that you, like, let's say that Hal comes upon me and, you know, I'm in a bad state and the hospital wants to treat me. Hal has to be the one that fights like a demon to say, you will not treat him. He does not want treating.
That was my point.
Yeah. And I don't mean, no, I mean, I get your point. And I don't mean that how the grief counselor, I mean, how the family member comes. And even though it's terrifying, the hospital will be desperate to save Pete. Oh, we can, you know, this is just an infection. No big deal. Like, no, this is not what he wants. Pete's demented. He has already signed all his paperwork. He does not want this treatment. And the hospital will do everything they can to get a needle into my arm. Well, we just want to test his blood. No. What do you mean? No, it's just a blood test. No, because once then they start sticking other stuff in and they start trying to fight for someone's life because that's how hospitals are wired. These people want to help.
But you know, I've also seen doctors and nurses both sitting there and explaining with passion to somebody's crying, saying, can we reverse the paperwork? Don't let them die. And have them go through the process of explaining to someone that is afraid of this death that's going to occur. And I love that because that's what we take an oath to do. When I got my doctorate, my oath was no different than a medical doctor. Right. And my doctor was in Christian pastoral counseling. But the point is,
one more thing about this?
Yes.
And then I know of a family where the aunt, and this is a lot of stress on the family to care for this person who is dying, and everything's set up like all you have to do is let this lady alone, and then she'll live out her days, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
And she kept rallying, and they found out that one of the caregivers was feeding her.
Yes.
And it's like, hey, so when I say you have to fight like a demon, you have to be like, what is going on here? This person is scheduled. Why aren't they passing? Oh, someone, because of their beliefs, is trying to save this person, even though there's no person left to save. The person's deeply demented or whatever. And so that is also a very heavy weight to be that much of a mongrel. Like, I'm just going to fight and make sure that my friend Hal passes away because that's what he wants. But that's sometimes what it takes. Okay, I'll be quiet about that now. But
No, that's a really good response. And that is exactly what those of us in the industry that deal with the people that are going through the actual dying process have to contend with. Once they're dead and gone, they're dead and gone. Now you have the living family members and friends that are starting the grief process. And we have to redirect our attention to the people that are in such pain and in such loss and in such affliction. Why didn't we do this different? Why wasn't this done in this particular case? And you have to walk them through it. And as you walk them through it and give them a clearer understanding of now how they're going to deal with tragic loss in their life, they're more susceptible to shortening the grief process within themselves because now questions have been answered. And as Pete, we're getting pretty close to wrapping up here. So as we get ready to end this today, I would like to say to you a major shout out to thank you so much for covering for the 2 weeks last month that I was incapable of doing the show. You really did a great job. I loved the interviews. The way you conducted them is always professional, concise, and very easy to understand. And I thoroughly enjoyed them. And thank you, brother. Thank you.
And I'm glad you got better, man. You had me worried.
Boy,
there. And
had me worried too, buddy.
Even though I was bugging, but go get a Z-Pack. Please go to the doctor. Hal's stubborn. You also got to love your friends enough to beat on them to say, go take care of yourself. Because us dudes,
the VA hospital,
yeah.
I did get a hold of VA on it.
Okay.
And they, because of the contagion, they recommended that I just monitor daily. I know what to do,
I know you know what to do, and it's my job to bug you about it to make sure.
I love you too.
It's easy for us not to do it, man. And so it is a delight to take over the reins of your show and drive it a little bit. It was fun. So
it was. I enjoyed watching them, brother. They were good. Well, listen, everybody. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch our show today. And we love you all. God bless you all. Stay strong and as the storms of life come before you, fight them, struggle through them, show that you're the victor. And that's what the Crisis Victory Show likes to show all of you. Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you. Pete, stay online after the show. We'll visit for a moment. Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.